Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome to episode 38 of ShrigleytubeTv. Thanks for all the kind comments last week. I'm sorry about the confusion on Sunday night once again. Hopefully we're back in the swing now and we'll get this launched at 7 on Sunday. Bit of a mixed bag this week for you. Starts off with Simon Benoy visits us on, was it Wednesday or Tuesday he came with his engine. Now we went to Doninigton Park. That was the 1200cc engine that I'd just done for him. Unfortunately it went poorly as it went over the line after practice, and it seems to have suffered an issue, so we took it apart and he very kindly agreed to be interviewed and we had a chat with him, so that was good. And then I had to do my own personal gearbox. I had to fix that, so I fixed that and did a bit of a talk on putting something back together, just basics on how a gearbox works for those that don't know. And then we've been to Donington Park today to watch the race 1 of the CTCRC with the imps, and yeah, there was some really fast gear out there. There was no chance for the imps, but they were well down the field. But Mike Loveland took the class today, which was great, and he agreed to be interviewed, so that was nice. We had a good chat with him in his camper van, so I interviewed him, and I got some pictures of my favourite cars there, so I'll do a bit of a voiceover. So I hope you enjoy the episode. I'll look forward to seeing you on Tuesday night, where I'll attempt to get some voiceover on some old racing or something. Alright, have a great weekend, take care, bye. Okay, morning YouTubers. I'm joined in the workshop today by Mr. Benoy. Good morning, Mr. Benoy, how are you?
Hi Andy, yeah, I'm pretty good, thanks.
Good. Now, I'm sorry that you're in here again. You only picked your engine up about 2 weeks ago, so would you mind telling us, just the viewers really, what's happened at Doninigton, and just we'll lead up to the engine in a minute, but if you can just give like a bit of a breakdown of how you went through practice and plug leads falling off, etc., and then we'll get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, okay, so we got the car all ready for Doninigton. It was going to be pretty cold, but we expected dry weather, at least for qualifying. So got down there, everything was fine, went out for the qualifying session, thought this isn't going all that quick. Why is it not going so quick? So pulled into the pits, had a quick look under the engine lid, and the number 1 plug lead had come off. Right. Now it's just probably maybe a couple of mil too short, and the way it had been routed, it just wouldn't quite stay firmly in the dizzy cap. So right. I took it off the plug and rerouted it round the other side a bit and shoved it back in the dizzy cap, put the engine lid back on, got back in the car, tried to put my belts on, messed them up. Karen was trying to help me, and I was getting tense about it all. Yeah, but anyway, got the belts back on properly, went back out again, and for the first time felt what the engine should really feel like. And so we did a couple of laps getting the whole car warmed up nicely, and then started to see what we could do, because I hadn't been to Doninigton since 2017, so it was quite a long time ago. I think it's been resurfaced since then. But yeah, there was a big grid, quite a big grid, and there was a big range, big variation in the cars. There was 4.5 litre Aston Martin out there, there was E-types, a lot of midgets and sprites that were in my class. But anyway, we just found a bit of clear track. We weren't pushing really hard, because last year when I pushed too hard at the first meeting of the year, I managed to go off backwards and into the Armco and bend my car. So definitely didn't want to do that this year. So we weren't pushing too hard, but we had a good run at it, and I was really pleased with the time. Not only the time, because things have changed, so the time would have gone down a bit anyway, but also where I was in the class relative to all the other cars in my class. There was, I don't know, more than half the entry was in my one class, 20 odd cars. Now I'd qualified, I think, 7th in class, so I was very pleased with that, and I was very pleased with the time. But then just as I took the checkered flag, I saw what I thought at the time was a puff of smoke out the exhaust. I thought, well, that's not normal, but I have just lifted off, so maybe it's just something's got past the rings and come out the exhaust. But did the slow down lap, no more smoke, and it was all okay. I thought, oh, that's not a problem. But then as we were pulling into the pit lane and stopped starting first gear, there was smoke, well, what I thought was smoke pouring out the exhaust, and when we stopped and jumped out of the car, there was water coming out of between the manifold and the silencer. So I thought, well, this isn't quite right. So we had a quick chat to Andy to see if there was anything we could do to solve the problem at the time, but there was definitely too much water going through there, so we abandoned the meeting. And we brought the engine back today to have a look what the problem is.
Right. Well, I'll tell you my side of the story. We were all watching you on we were in the NEC, and we had you on the live timing, and we were like, oh, he's in the 1:25s, and then and then I saw you finish practice, and I was like, oh, what? You know, when a car's been apart in pieces, I always watch, and if it's going to have something fall off, it's always in the first race or first practice. So it was nice to see that you'd finished. And then the phone rang and it said Simon Benoy Mobile, and I thought, oh, he's ringing to say the engine's amazing, Andy. and he said it was good while it lasted. I nearly started crying. Anyway, there you go. It wasn't meant to be, so we'll just have to find the next weakest link and fix it. Now Simon's put his t-shirt on, which is great. Well done. That's an original one. That must have seen a few wash loads. It's got to be a good 10 years old. That. Now this is the engine, and I've just pulled the cylinder head off with Simon to have a quick peep inside to see what had happened. I did suspect it was possibly a head issue, but on closer inspection, what we've got a hairline crack in the liner right at the very top. So I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure. There's no signs of detonation or anything. It's not like it's been overpressuring. I think it's just purely these liners. This engine's been together for quite a long time now, so I think they've just done their time. I did and ah about replacing them, but as they were settled and, you know, looking so nice when I came to rebuild the engine, I didn't replace them. So what we're going to do is, oh, that's me waterproof roof leak bowl, not a dog bowl. What we're going to do is we're going to take the engine apart, and we're going to put a full set of new liners in it and rebore it all, machine it all, and I'm going to try and do this on on a super fast so that I can get him ready. When's the next outing, Simon? Is it Alton Park?
About a month at Alton Park, yeah.
Alton Park, right. We'll make sure you're fully back together for then, and maybe we'll try and get a test session squeezed in. I don't know if there'll be time for that. Don't touch that just in case it's got rat water in it, because we have an issue with long tails in the roof. Yeah, just wash your hands because it's awful. I'd hate for you to be poorly. Right, great. Thank you anyway, Simon, for coming along and giving us a lowdown on what's gone on. I'm sure people will be interested to hear what's gone on.
Yeah, I look forward to getting out again at Alton Park, because that was fun while it lasted. And
we'll try and get you some more power. We're not putting it back together the same way, not a chance. Okay, good morning, YouTubers. I've just about recovered from the NEC. There's not an awful lot of work being done, I've got to be honest. I'm breaking myself back into the swing of things gently. But I thought I'd make a little video about Hillman Imp gearboxes, just because I've got one on the bench here. It's mine, and I thought I need to sort it out, put it back together. I've just got this old part for casing. This isn't actually the casing that I run, this is just so I can see what's happening inside, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about how it actually works. Now this is Imp gearboxes for the beginner. I'm sorry if you're an expert and you're watching this thinking, crikey, you've got that bit wrong. Anyway, what this is a Tranex 4-speed dog engagement gearbox. So it's not a synchromesh gearbox, and if we look at the gears, we can see they're all straight cut. These are what we call helical cut, so you can see they're at an angle, and because these are like, I think it's sort of like shear as they run, they make them much quieter. So this is like a road car gearbox. We'll come to that later. And this is a dog engagement gearbox, which has got straight cut teeth, so the gears are straight. They're very noisy, but there's no side load. It's just the load is transferred much more efficiently from one gear to the other without any heat. Because if you can imagine, as these ones run, in fact, I'll just stop there on that subject because it's not something I know a great deal about. Anyway, what I've done is I've put my little input shaft motor on, so we can see what goes on inside the gearbox. Now, to start with, I'll put the camera on a stand in a minute so you can see in more detail how it works. But to the basics, we've got two shafts that run through the gearbox. The top one is the input shaft, which is attached to the clutch out of the, you know, out the end of the engine. So that's where the drive comes in, and then it's what they call a constant mesh gearbox. So all 4 gears are in constant mesh all the time, but they just spin on the output shaft, so they're not actually driving. So if you look, the output shaft isn't going round, all 4 gears are going round inside. So they're all in mesh with the gear that they're going to transmit the load through, but they're not actually attached to this shaft. Now this is the output shaft, and that's attached to the differential. So it's called the crown wheel and pinion, where basically the pinion drives the big crown wheel inside there, which is attached to the donuts, which drives the back wheels. So what happens is, how can I describe it? Yeah, right. So when you select, this is actually 3rd and 4th. When you select 4th gear, that moves that way, and that one moves that way. That's 3rd gear, and it's the same for this here. So we've got 1st gear and then 2nd gear. Now it's very important that we only ever select 1 gear at once, because if you were to be in, say, 2nd gear, and you also decided that, or for something went wrong with the mechanism, and you actually engaged another gear, so we've got 4th there, you'll see the whole thing locks up because of different ratios. So we've got 2 gears engaged on the shaft at the same time, it won't go round. But that's obviously got 1 gear on it, and you can see we've now got the output shaft going round, because what happens is this is called the sliding dog that transmits the drive, shall we say. So whichever way it chooses to go, it's got little dog teeth, and as they slide over, it then engages that gear, because this part here, the hub, the hub that the sliding dog slides over, that is in constant drive with the shaft. So this and this are locked to the shaft, but that doesn't matter, because obviously when it's in neutral, let's just press the button again, you'll see they're stationary. Hang on, that doesn't make sense, does it? What's gone wrong there? Oh yeah, they're stationary because the output shaft is stationary. Just tie myself in knots there, thinking, how does that work, crikey? Right, so yeah, you can see the shaft that attaches the pinion to the crown wheel is stationary along with these hubs, and it's only when we engage, oops, that, I was going to put the camera on the stand, I'll do a better demonstration of this in a second. Right, okay, this should be easier to do now that the camera's on the stand. Now, I always find it easier to learn by watching something than listening to someone talk about it. So I'll do a bit of talking, but it's really easy. Imagine the engine is in gear now. Sorry, the engine is idling. So the input shaft is attached to the clutch. So obviously the input shaft is turning round, and then depress the clutch, so it would actually stop while we depress the clutch, but we'll leave it running for the sake of argument here. And this is the 1st and 2nd gear hub. So you go to select 1st gear, you can see the drive is now transmitted from the hub, which is rigid on the output shaft, through the hub, and obviously the dogs have now engaged with the 1st gear, and we're getting 1st gear motion. So come back to neutral, and then you see it catch there, that's 2nd gear. So the load is now transmitted from the hub into the 2nd gear, and we've got motion again. So obviously the way that the interlock plate in the end of the gearbox works, it ensures that you can only ever get 1 gear at once, because if you ever engage 2 gears at once, you run the risk of bursting the gearbox, because it would effectively lock itself up, because the 2 gears would be wanting to go at different speeds, because obviously no 2 gears are the same ratio inside the gearbox. Right, so we're going for 3rd gear now, which is this one. So oops, bit of a crunch there. That's into 3rd and into 4th. So I think you get the gist there. So you can see the 1st gear is the smallest one, 2nd biggest is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and it just works like that. It just works just like that. Just works just like that. Great. So that's covered that part of it. I think that's gearboxes for the very beginners. Now this here that I want to show you is from a standard gearbox. So obviously these are the helical gears, and then this is what we call a synchro hub. So I'll just take it apart, and it's exactly the same theory as what we just looked at. This basically slides between, hang on, I've got myself all in a pickle, haven't I? So this has the fork on it, and it either goes into fourth gear, or is that'd be yeah, that'd be fourth, and that'd be third, I think I'm right in saying. No, they're first and second gear because they're massive, aren't they? So that'd be first, and that'd be second, going that way, depending on which way. Now this has a bit of a different system. We'll try and move it, but it has blocker bars and all sorts. There you go. Can you see it slid over? And it's a lovely smooth motion, and that's because it's for a road car. So what happens is, on this, with it being a dog engagement gearbox, we can't avoid the crunch when it goes into gear, because it's just a mechanical dog against a mechanical dog, and as they come into mesh they crash. But the idea is, if you've got a really good strong gear lever system, you know, it won't be a problem. All the dog box problems come from not having the gear linkage correct. If the gear linkage is weak, what happens is, as they come into mesh, they crash and bounce out again. So it needs to be, you know, your gear lever needs to be positive. You've got to have rose joints on it, and nowhere for basically for the dog gears to bite back. Because if you've got a problem with the gear linkage on a dog engagement gearbox, honestly, it'll just ruin a good dog box in no time. I suffered for a long time with gear changes on the Imp, and I'll let you into a secret. I watched a video of a car, I think his name was Leo Nolte, and he had a 5-speed Imp gearbox going around Anglesey. It was in car, it's on YouTube, and the gearbox was like a switch, and I was like, why is his gearbox like a switch and mine's just a box of crunches? And when I looked at his car, the gearbox on an Imp, you have two rubber mounts at the back. See these rubber mounts? So what was happening was, on my car I had a really nice setup where I had rose joints, etc. on the gear lever, but it didn't matter because the gearbox just floated on the rubbers. So what was happening was, the gears were able to, the dogs were able to fight each other because the gearbox just shimmied around. And it was only when I actually had someone else changing the gears, I was looking at the engine move, I realised what the problem was. So I put a tie bar from the sump plug to the cross member to stop the forward and aft motion of the gearbox, and instantly the gear lever was transmitted, the gear change was transformed. And since then, you've probably noticed on my race car, I don't use a rubber mount. I have a rigid mount, just an aluminium block with a bolt in it that's Loctited, and it really improves the gear change. Because I always remember, you know, Bob Jones, I'm getting into a bit of a waffle here, aren't I? But Bob Jones, I remember him telling me something about the Cavalier touring cars, and they ran, you might remember the John Cleland Cavalier, they ran a gear lever that was on the steering column, and I couldn't understand why they'd done that. And the reason they'd done the gear lever on the steering column was they were using, obviously, dog engagement gearboxes. The gear lever had a shaft that ran straight down all the way to the gearbox, and they were measuring the deflection of that shaft because they had a problem with the gears tearing up dogs. And it's only when they went to that column change gearbox with a straight shaft straight through the bulkhead, straight to the top of the gearbox, all their gearbox issues disappeared. So that's how important it is. Anyway, we're getting a bit of a waffle here, aren't we? So we just discussed this, and we've looked at it, and we've said that's the sliding hub on a standard synchro gearbox. Now, this is called a synchro hub, and it's made of bronze, so obviously it has a higher rate of expansion than the cone that it grabs onto. So if you've ever got an Imp gearbox that's fine when it's cold and no good when it's hot, that's because this hub has expanded. Now, if you look inside, you can see lots of little grooves, and them little grooves, what happens is, when you go to change gear in a millisecond, as the hub slides over, you see these little teeth. The idea is that this cone spins the next gear up to speed, so that it just makes a lovely smooth transition. You know, as the gear lever, as the sliding hub, this bit, as these little teeth here slide over them little teeth there, they do it in an instant, so it just goes lovely and smooth. Now what happens is, these wear out, So when you go to change gear, this can't grab this gear to speed it up to the same speed as a sliding dog, or as a sliding hub, should I say. So then you get the crunch. If you really take your time with it, sometimes you can speed it up, or if you're clever and can do double declutch, you can speed it up to make it work. Now, the other thing that's worth mentioning with the imp is these gearboxes were designed to run with ep80s or 90s or 80/90 GL4 spec, not GL5. So if you try and run too modern an oil that's too slippy, the hub can't grab. There's quite a lot of friction on there. In fact, it virtually, you know, you push it hard, it really does grab. It's quite a good design, you know. Obviously, just a wear point on the Hillmans, because you know they're old as well. And the other thing, we will look into imp gearboxes at some point, but it's not really my bag, and I don't really know what I'm talking about. I only know enough to touch on and do my own stuff. But they have a bronze bush inside of it, whereas these have needle rollers, and the bronze bush can wear and get hot and break up a little bit, and then what happens is we get the gear out of control. And so when you lift off, you can sometimes get a situation where, because of the deflection, because the bearings, the bush has lost control of the shaft of the gear, it pops it out of gear on the overrun. Anyway, we're really diverting now, so I think we've got the basics now on how a basic imp gearbox works. I'll leave it at that for now, and yeah, if you want to put any comments in the comment section and just put me right where I was wrong, that'd be great. Okay, YouTubers, the final part on the gearbox, trying to explain how they work for the people that don't understand. These are the selector forks that we've got inside the gearbox. Now you can't obviously see them. All we can see is the two top parts, which is there and there, and there's a groove there. That's for the interlock plate. You'll see that in a minute. Now this shaft that's stuck up here is the end of this shaft, and the way it works is when we turn the gear lever, we either select the first and second gear selector fork, which I can't quite get in, which is there, or it spins across to third and fourth and does third and fourth, does that and that, or that and that. So you get the gist of how all that is now. You can see that's how it'll be inside the gearbox. So what we're going to do, we're going to attempt to put the reverse gear end back together between us. So at the moment, like we discussed before, when both selectors are engaged in the gear, so we've probably got first gear and third gear there, because both of these are pushed down, it won't go round. So what we need to do is let this little peg on the end select the input shaft, select the selector shaft like that. See, that was the first and the second gear one. So if we go for neutral now, it turns lovely. So obviously we need to jiggle him across. Now sometimes you have to use a magnet just to pull him up a little bit, so that, because they've got to be perfectly in line for it to work. He says, and it's stuck. Wonderful. So you come across here like that. Why is this happening to me now? Come on. Oh, pushed it down even further. Wonderful. Oh, there you go, it's up now. Right, I'm in the third and fourth one now, so we can see that'll be neutral, that'll be fourth, which is obviously locked it because we're in first as well, and that one will be third. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this opportunity to slide it into both of them at the same time. Can you see? So if you can imagine now, that peg is halfway between first and second and halfway between third and fourth. And I'll leave them in that position because it makes it easier to set up when we do the next bit. Now this is called the interlock plate, and it only goes one way, so it has the big portion to the right hand side. So what we do is, you'll see there's a little slidey part on that shaft. Just slide him under there like that, and that's him in position. Okay, right, now the next bit, now this is the reverse gear plunger. So when you're in an imp and you want to get out of the H section gate to get across to reverse gear, and you have to slam the gear lever over, what that is it's that little peg there pushing this piston and spring down. So that lives in this hole here, and it just goes up and down like that. Can you see that on the camera? Yep. So all will be revealed. Well, actually, we won't be able to see that part because we can't actually test the gearbox until the end cover's on, and I haven't got an end cover that's disassembled. So what we'll do next is, the way I do it is, this is the little roller, and there's a gap that appears when we push it all into the position. A gap appears there, and this little roller goes there. So I'm going to sit him there ready to drop in, because it's a little bit tricky, not hard or difficult, just a little bit tricky. So this is obviously, that's the first and second gear selector, third and fourth, and then we've got the reverse gear selector. So that lives inside the gearbox like that. And the way it works is, this bit engages in that peg that we'll call that the gearbox selector arm, and obviously he's got the other ones there. So we come across there when you go for reverse, and then you pull it, and there's a mechanism here which we'll go into in a minute, which you'll see working. So that part goes in the interlock plate, and that part operates the rocker that engages reverse gear, because reverse gear is external on this gearbox. So I've got to lower this into the hole, but obviously there's nothing to stop it from going all the way. So what I'll do is I'll lower it in and try and get the interlock plate to engage a little bit, just like that, just so that it can't drop down. I'm just spinning around like that. So it's just caught him on the edge. Now the next thing you've got to do, that's safe now, is you've got to push. Well, what we'll do is we'll pull this up first. So I've got it engaged in both of the gears. I'll try and move my hand so you can see. In fact, I'll try and spin the box so you can see. Oops, I just slid out of one of them there. Right, so I'm bringing them two up now. Oh, one of them's fell out. So back up again, and I'm going to try and jiggle the plate, but what I've also got to do is push the plunger down. So the plunger's gone down, out of the way, and I just need that to come over here a bit more, and then the little roller will drop into position. So plunger down again, there you go. Use my little finger, just dropped the roller in, and now the whole thing should stay in position. So the plunger's down, reverse gears in, the interlock plate is safe, it's stuck in there, and at the moment it looks like we've got ourselves in, I'd say that's first gear. So that's fine, let's just give it a turn. So yeah, that's in first gear at the moment. So all that stays as it is now, no need to touch any of it. We'll put reverse gear on. So to put reverse gear on, the first thing we do, this is the little pinion or what we call it, we'll call it the reverse gear shaft. And I think I've talked about it in the past, you can see one side is deeper than the other. So the deep side goes inside the casing that way. And then what we've got next is we've got the reverse gear arm. Now this is obviously what pushes the gear in and out of mesh. It's not a constant mesh gear, reverse gear, it just literally clatters it in. So you see that little peg there that swivels, that locates in there, and then again this pin, this swivel pin, has a deeper side one side and a shallow side. Quite often see them fitted the wrong way around, especially on this one, and it punches a hole in the end of the gearbox. So that goes like that. And then this is the reverse gear. Now obviously the side with the lead on it, where it's been crashing into these two gears, goes down. So we'll just pull that out a second. Obviously that's the groove that the peg locates in. So that goes like that. So now, although I'm not sure I can actually show it happening, but effectively when you go to select reverse gear, this goes down like that. It's actually working. It's just bending everything or moving everything. So that goes down and actually crashes the gears into reverse. That's why when you go to select reverse and you quite often get a crash. So I think in a nutshell, that's how to put the end of your gearbox back together. We won't go any deeper because you're probably sick of hearing me talk about gearboxes now. So yeah, there you go. Right, sorry, I just nearly forgot to explain something that's very important. So this is the selector shaft, and you can see it's got 3 grooves on it. So obviously the gear lever has a neutral position, a forward and a backwards position. So one will be for first and third, neutral and sliding across to reverse, and then you'll have your fourth, second gear and reverse. Now, because the mechanism's all nice and free and does not have anything to locate it, if you think about the way the Imp gearbox works, it always feels like it clicks into gear and then wants to stay into gear, and that's because, I'm not sure how well you can see it, there's a little ball and a spring, and inside the tail housing, which is here, this goes on like this. You'll see a screw there. Oh, I'll get it in the camera. Now that thread has this spring, and the ball goes first, then the spring, and then the shaft pops out at the end. And what they do is they locate like that, can you see, in the actual groove. So when you push the gear lever, you know, there's a bit of resistance, the spring compresses, the ball pushes out of the way, and then when you get into the position of the gear, the ball pops back into that groove and then holds it in gear. So I think that concludes my talk on the gearbox now. Right chaps, it's the big test. I've put it all back together. I'm pretty confident it's going to be okay. It's in neutral at the moment. Obviously I can just turn on a normal differential. You couldn't do that because it's got a limited slip diff in it, and it's a plate type diff, not a Cam and Paul one. It's got quite a lot of preload, so you can turn the whole gearbox over from one side. So this is the I just put this little attachment on it just to make it easier for me to do. So that's, as you waggle your gear lever from side to side, that's what's happening. So the first gear we're going to go for is reverse, so that'll be hard over. And remember that little ball, that spring and the little plunger with the cone on top of it, I was telling you about, you had to push it to get it in reverse gear. That's that bit. So you hear it? That's it being pushed in and flicking back out again. That keeps you out of the reverse gear gate and keeps you in the main H section. So that's that. It's into reverse. It's gone across now. We've broken it across, and obviously we're pulling it backwards to get reverse, so we need to pull it forward. So that should now be reverse gear. So I'll turn this clockwise, and you can see the donuts are going in a motion that would send the car backwards. So we'll come out of reverse gear, which is into the middle of the gate, and then back across to the H. So now we need to select first gear. So it's hard over to that side of the H, and let me just think about this for a second. We're going to go into first, so we're going to push it in. So it might just need a bit of jiggling. So that should be first gear now. Right, and then we're going to go straight across the second. That's gone straight in. The knocking noise was just I've got like a buzz gun on the end of the input shaft. And so that was second gear. So back across to neutral. I'm going to go to the third next. It's not gone quite in there. There, it's in now. So that's third gear. And then out all the way for fourth. Oh, didn't think we were in. Well, that's not very good, is it? Won't go in fourth. Come on. Oh, there you go. It's jammed in now. Well, it's jammed. Obviously, because fourth gear is the tallest gear, it's too much resistance for my, you know, for my little buzz gun. So that's why it's doing the click click click. But yeah, you get the gist anyway. So always good practice when you build a gearbox, just to do this test on the bench, because it's an absolute pain to pull it all out again when you put it in the car and discover you've got no reverse gear or whatever. Right, great, wonderful, that's that done.
Okay, YouTubers, here we are at Doninigton Park. I've just arrived. It's Good Friday. This car has been built by Dan Rooney and Cole Rooney, and it's an absolute stunner. Fantastic job. Look at that interior. They've all made a big effort to get the seats back, get the steering wheel forward, pedals right, so you feel comfy. They had a little problem in practice where the UJ come off the gear lever or something. That's my mate Mike Loveland, and his car that's also had some work done at Cole Rooney's place, where they've moved the seat back and put a modern roll cage in. Moved the steering wheel down as well, just to make it a bit nicer to drive. There's James with his grey glue, just getting the car ready to go out. It's a lovely car that. He's done very well with that car, as most of you will know. And then this guy's called David Ellis, and he's been getting steadily quicker. It's a lovely car. It's an ex-John Danby racing car, very clean. That's John with David Heel and the very famous Adrian Oliver getting the imp ready. They were just putting some extra oil in the gearbox. I took a picture of it. I thought, fantastic setup that. Saves lying your back. These are some cars that were going out for the race before. I just thought I'd take a video of them because I do like my old Fords, and yeah, some of these old Fords were fantastic. I mean, just look at that Escort, absolutely magic. Another Escort there, and that car in the background, 101, which will come to a minute, XR2 there. This bloke here used to be one of Bob's customers, and about 20 years ago he turned up at the workshop with a snap-on quarter drive electric buzz gun kit for me, and just gave it me and said, you know, use that, it'll help you with your job. So very kind guy, that Malcolm. Right, this is the imps all ready to go out for the race, so they're just in the assembly area. That's that lovely ex-John Danby racing imp. This is them going out. Here's James. So this is for race 1 on Good Friday. Some very, very fast minis out there today, really fast. That's the lovely car of Dan Rooney. Cole's built that with him, and that's Mr. Loveland. And we've got David Ellis, and that's the Adrian Oliver, very famous ex-multiple champion. Now here's the start of the race. Not what to say other than the minis were fast. I couldn't believe how quick they were on a fast circuit. And they were just amazing today. There's James, and he's been hounded by Mr. Loveland. There's Adrian, and then we've got Dan Rooney, have we? Yeah, there's Dan Rooney going really well for his first race. And we also have at the back, oh, that's a lovely sounding 6-cylinder Triumph. Here's the David Ellis car. Unfortunately, David had a bit of a whoopsie and went on the grass, so he lost a bit of time. He did make a few places up, to be fair, by the end of the race. So here's the leaders coming through again. I think that's the Mini, absolutely flying that one. Them 2 minutes were unbelievable. Well, 3 to be fair. Obviously there's the championship winning car from last year. That was number 1, the Anglia, fantastic, really quick car, ex-Robin Slater car. There goes our friend Mike Loveland. Unfortunately, I think it's about now that we see James just appear. His gear lever broke, so there he goes off at the back there. Just peeled off into the pits.
Okay, YouTubers, I'm just sat in Michael's camper van with Mike Loveland. Mike's just finished his first race and done very well. He took the class after giving a bit of a threat to James Ibbotson, and then James has had a problem with the gear lever, so he'll be back tomorrow to try and spoil your day. But yeah, I just wanted to ask you a few questions, Mike, about, you know, why an imp, and when did you first start racing?
Why an imp? The first question is, when I was at university, a mate of mine, I had a Mark III Cortina, and a mate of mine had a Hillman imp, and we used to go out in his Hillman imp, and I realised that it was just the best, most fun car to have. So right, I sold the Cortina and bought a Sunbeam Imp Sport, a Mark I, which was absolutely beautiful. And then I'd always wanted to go racing. My dad was into racing, and we used to go to all the historic stuff. Always wanted to do it. And then I sold my business in 2016, had a little bit of pocket money, and thought I'll go racing. Discussed it with my partner Claire, and we said, oh, maybe another 5 years, we'll get all the kids through university, get them all finished, and then we can do it. Long story short, one of my very good friends and colleague through work got pancreatic cancer and died in a very short period of time. And I rang Claire up when I found out I had pancreatic cancer, said no more 5 years, I'm going now. So started searching for a car, and if you're not in the imp community, or you're not in the race community at that time, you sort of, you've no idea where to start. But Freddie Brown, bless him, who raced an imp, he found me a car that Colin Rooney had built for Gideon September, and Gideon was selling it, and so I bought that and started in 2018. And I bought a ready to race, as we all do, and then you suddenly realise as the season goes on that it's not ready to race.
Ready to learn to race.
Yeah, ready to learn to.
Well,
ready
did
to
you
learn
proud?
To mechanic.
I've just realised something, Mike. I came here to see Freddie Brown a long time ago, and I think that was probably one of your earlier race meetings. Do you remember when I came to see Freddie?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So Freddie was a customer for a while.
Yeah, he was. That's right.
He's gone to the dark side now. He's bought an Anglia. Anyway, he's happy, bless him.
Enough about that.
Yeah. So so you've bought an imp, you've gone racing, you've got steadily quicker and quicker. Let's be honest. You know, every season you've knocked the times down and started becoming a bit of a nuisance. I found out at Brands. But yeah, I got past you eventually, only because I think you thought I was a lunatic.
Oh, I don't think you're a lunatic. I know you're a lunatic.
Yeah, I was just keen. I was just really keen. I do get overexcited, and I will calm down. But being here today, watching you guys, you know, I just.
Well, you'll be out at Cadwell. Will you be out? At
I won't be out at Cadwell. It's my wife's 40th birthday that weekend. So
Mallory.
yeah, so Mallory, and then we'll do Brands. But what I was going to say to you was, I've just watched them cars going round, and I think the days of the imps coming up at the front have gone, because that Mini and that Anglia and they were just another level. I mean, have you noticed that the competition has got stiffer?
Oh, without a doubt, particularly on the Anglias. The Anglias, we used to be able to race alongside them, and now, chatting to the lads only yesterday evening, they reckon they're getting about 150 brake horsepower out of some of those Anglias, which is, we got what, 110 maybe, and it's just in a straight line, it's just too much. You know, if we have a wet race, then you know.
Or Mallory is a fantastic imp circuit. The imps are really good.
Or Cadwell as well.
Yeah, Cadwell's got a good straight up the hill where the V8s and
past you. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Michael, congratulations on your race 1 class win, and thanks for taking part in the interview. You can get your popcorn ready for Sunday night.
Cheers, Andy.
Well done.
Thanks very much.
Okay, YouTubers, hope you've enjoyed tonight's episode and you're still awake, not sat there with popcorn all over you. Anyway, I'll look forward to seeing you on Tuesday night at 7, and we'll do some voiceover and some old racing or something. Bye for now.